Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
You know that inner voice, the one that's constantly running the commentary on your life, sometimes arguing with itself, or even with you. What if that voice, the one that never seems to shut up, what if it isn't actually you? Sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
It really does shift your perspective.
Today we're taking a deep dive into a truly transformative work, Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. I mean, this book has captivated millions.
Oh, absolutely. It's praised by spiritual leaders like Deepak Chopra for its, profound insights into consciousness.
Yeah, and even business titans like Ray Kurzweil for his radical approach to inner freedom. It's kind of a rare blend, isn't it? Spiritual wisdom, but also practical guidance for the modern mind.
Definitely. And our source material today, well, it draws directly from the Untethered Soul itself. We're exploring its profound insights, these powerful metaphors he uses, and the deeply practical guidance.
So what's the mission for listeners today?
Our mission for you, our listener, is really to unpack Singer's core teachings. Things like realizing your true self, understanding that powerful flow of inner energy, and ultimately, living a life of unconditional happiness and profound inner freedom. All straight from the source.
Okay.
We'll explore how these concepts, which might seem a bit abstract at first, can actually directly impact your day-to-day experience.
So whether you're someone who feels maybe overwhelmed by constant mental chatter before a big presentation.
Right.
Or perhaps you're just curious about deeper levels of self-awareness, or even if you're just looking for new tools to cultivate a more peaceful existence. This deep dive is absolutely for you. So as we jump in, what stands out to you about the very idea of an untethered soul, a self free from all these internal and external constraints?
It's that idea of freedom, I think, real deep freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start then. Singer, he immediately grabs your attention by pointing out what he calls the mental dialogue, that nonstop voice in your head.
Yeah, the chatter.
Exactly. And he challenges us to even notice it. He asks, and I love this quote, if right now you were hearing, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any voice inside my head. That's the voice we're talking about.
Huh. Right. It catches you immediately. It's an instant demonstration of the very thing he wants us to observe. You can't really argue with it.
No, you can't. He sets the stage by making it so clear that this inner chatter is just so pervasive, so deeply woven into our experience that we often don't even recognize it as separate from ourselves.
It's just there, like background noise you tune out.
Yeah, like the air we breathe. Constant and often unnoticed until you make a conscious effort to pay attention. And he points out how often it's involved in seemingly mundane tasks, yet it subtly, or maybe overtly, shapes our perception of everything.
It really does. It's our internal narrator, our critic, our planner, our worrier, all rolled into one. And it rarely takes a break, does it?
It never seems to.
It's fascinating how Singer personifies this voice. He gives it a name that makes it immediately relatable, your inner roommate.
That's such a good one.
Isn't it? And it's not just a clever metaphor. It's a profound way to encourage us to create this sort of subjective object relationship with our thoughts.
To see them as separate from the you watching them.
Exactly. To see them as something else. And he vividly illustrates its neurotic tendencies. This roommate talks to itself, argues with itself.
Never shuts up.
Never shuts up. And even changes sides just as long as it gets to keep on talking. Imagine, just for a moment, sharing your most private space, your consciousness, with someone who actually behaves like that.
You wouldn't stand for it.
No way. This roommate offers no silence. It's constantly narrating, judging, planning. The sheer volume of this internal monologue, once you really start to observe it, can be, astounding.
It's not just a whisper.
Not at all. It's a full-blown, incessant dialogue. Singer really pushes us to consider the sheer absurdity of this constant inner companion that we kind of paradoxically take so seriously, often letting it dictate our entire emotional landscape.
And the examples he gives, they make it so real. Imagine this roommate following you around all day, constantly chiming in. Wasn't I supposed to call Fred? I should have. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot.
Right, or the other one, I think I should get married. No, you know you're not ready. You'll be sorry.
Exactly. He brilliantly shows how the voice takes both sides of a conversation, just jumping between conflicting viewpoints, seemingly just to keep the internal drama going.
Keeps the energy moving, even if it's negative energy.
And then he asks us to consider this. If this person, this inner roommate, was an external entity, physically present in your living room,
You'd kick them out.
you absolutely would.
Yeah.
You would tell them to leave and never come back.
Yeah.
You'd probably call the authorities. Yet we give this inner voice absolute attention to every word they say.
We really do. It pulls us right out of whatever we're doing, no matter how enjoyable or important, and demands our full focus.
He even describes this imagined scene where the roommate manifests externally while you're trying to watch TV, constantly complaining, arguing with itself, reacting to everything on screen.
Yeah, that really drives it home. The absurdity of tolerating that kind of presence becomes so palpable when you see it like that.
You start to realize how much respect, how much power you give this neurotic thing inside you, even letting it dictate major life decisions, often leading to just endless self-doubt or procrastination.
Which brings us to this crucial question Singer wants us to ponder. If this inner voice is so neurotic and so totally wrong so often, I mean, how many times has that voice been wrong about what was going on or what will be going on?
Probably more often than it's right.
Likely. So why do we still take its advice with such gravity? Singer's profound insight here is that the real cause of problems is not life itself. It's the commotion the mind makes about life that really causes problems.
Oh, okay, so it's our reaction, not the event.
Precisely. Think about it. The rain falls, the sun rises, the traffic jam, these are just events. Our thoughts don't change the rain or the sunrise. They primarily affect our internal state.
Right.
The vast majority of this internal chatter is actually, well, meaningless. It just serves to make us feel better or worse about things. The mind, he argues, often acts like a protection mechanism, a defense to buffer us from reality.
How so?
Well, we recreate the outside world inside our minds, right? We verbalize it, judge it, complain about it, and then decide what to do about it, all in this kind of futile attempt to feel some sense of control over a world that just marches to its own beat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this continuous mental manipulation, this incessant processing of every single experience, is precisely what truly exhausts us, drains our energy, and creates our deepest internal struggles and anxieties.
Wow, okay. So if that ever-present, sometimes chaotic inner voice isn't us, then who are we? This leads us to one of the most fundamental and maybe liberating questions Singer poses all through the book.
It's the core question, really.
Singer, echoing the great yogic teacher Ramana Maharshi, who was this renowned Indian sage known for self-inquiry, right?
Exactly, a very direct path.
He continually asks, who am I? And he systematically peels back the layers, inviting us to think about it. You're not your name, you're not your relationships, your life story, your physical body, or even your constantly shifting emotions.
He walks us through this logical process of elimination, showing that none of these external labels or internal experiences truly define the unchanging you.
Your name is just a label someone gave you.
Right. Relationships change, they come and go. Your life story, that's just a series of events you experience, not who you are fundamentally.
Even the body, which feels so intensely you, is something you observe in the mirror. It ages, it changes, it feels separate from the observer of it.
It's a profound exercise in detachment, really, stepping back from all those identifiers.
And this leads to a really revolutionary idea. Singer argues that our pure awareness of existence, just the fact that we are, is entirely independent of our thoughts.
This is where he challenges Descartes' famous, "I think, therefore I am." He points out that in deep meditation, the thoughts stop. You know that they've stopped.
You're aware of the silence.
Exactly. If you are in there experiencing the peace that occurs when your thoughts stop, then obviously your existence is not dependent upon the act of thinking.
That's a crucial distinction, a fundamental reorientation.
It really is. Consciousness, pure awareness, exists even when there's absolutely no mental activity. You are the subject who is aware of thoughts, just like you're the subject aware of a flower pot or a book outside yourself.
Thoughts are just objects passing through awareness.
Precisely. Thoughts are simply objects of your awareness, not the awareness itself. This deep intuitive sense of knowing you are there, regardless of what's happening internally or externally, thinking or not thinking, that's the foundation of self-realization Singer points us towards.
It's the silent space behind everything.
That's a good way to put it.
He offers this powerful, yet really simple consciousness experiment to illustrate this. He invites you, the listener, to try it right now. Make it say hello right now. Say it over and over a few times.
Okay. Hello, hello, hello.
Now stop and ask yourself, Who hears that word hello being spoken internally?
Ah, I do. The listener does.
You are the one who hears the voice. Just like when you look at external objects, you are the subject perceiving the thoughts as objects. You are not your thoughts. You are simply aware of your thoughts.
It seems so obvious when you put it like that.
Doesn't it? He emphasizes that no matter what the inner voice says, no matter how convincing or loud it gets, it's still just a voice talking, and you are the one listening to it. This intuitive sense of existence, the unchanging core of your being. That's what he calls awareness, consciousness, the witness, the soul, the self.
He describes it as the place back in here somewhere I look out, and I am aware of the events, thoughts, and emotions that pass before me.
Yeah. This deep inner seat, this true home, stays constant, unwavering, unaffected, while everything else around it just shifts, appears, disappears.
And this realization, the shift in perspective, it's truly crucial. He says, there is nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of the mind. You are the one who hears it.
That just changes everything, doesn't it?
Completely. It allows us to step back and just observe the inner commotion instead of being swept away by it, or worse, totally identifying with it.
Right.
It points to a deeper, unchanging aspect of our being, the steadfast awareness that comes before all thought and emotion. By taking this seat of the witness, you can start to distinguish between a true, eternal self and the ever-changing, transient stream of mental and emotional objects.
When you truly ask, who is it that sees this? You realize the very act of seeing implies a distinct observer.
A you that is separate from the observed.
Yeah.
This understanding, this experiential knowledge, is the essential difference between someone who's spiritually minded and someone who's just lost, caught up, totally identified in their inner world.
It's about reclaiming your life from the chatter of the inner roommate.
And recognizing your true, unchanging essence, which brings profound freedom and peace.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so if we are this pure consciousness, this witness, then why do we so often get lost in what Singer calls the inner show? Why do we lose our centeredness so easily?
That's the next logical question, isn't it? He explains that consciousness has this incredible natural ability to focus, to become more aware of one thing and less aware of another.
Like concentrating on a conversation in a noisy room.
Exactly. It's a fundamental and natural function. The problem, he clarifies, isn't the focusing itself. It arises when your sense of awareness loses itself in the object. It is no longer aware that it is aware of the object. It just becomes object conscious.
Ah, okay. So you forget you're the one doing the focusing.
Precisely. That's the key to understanding how we lose our connection to the self, how we become sort of untethered from our true nature. We get so utterly absorbed in the content of our experience, whether it's an internal thought or an external event, that we forget the underlying awareness, the you that is experiencing it. The observer gets lost in the observed.
Right. And he uses that TV analogy to explain this, doesn't he?
Yes, it's a powerful one. He asks, when you're deeply absorbed in watching TV, do you have any awareness of where you're sitting or what else is going on in the room?
Usually no. You're completely in the show.
Exactly. Then he pushes it further. Imagine a movie that's so immersive it also synchronizes your thoughts and emotions, making you feel like the character, experience their inner monologue. He then asks, careful, that would be the end of you as you know yourself.
Wow.
And that, he says, is our precise predicament in daily life. Because all of the objects you're aware of are synchronized. Your senses, your thoughts, your emotions, you get sucked in and are no longer aware of your separateness from the objects.
Our senses, thoughts, emotions all team up to create this compelling inner reality.
Makes it incredibly easy to get completely absorbed, losing sight of the observer, the witness. This is what it means to be lost, to be entirely consumed by the inner show of thoughts, feelings, sensations, forgetting that you are the one watching, the one experiencing it all.
And this absorption is exactly what he defines as the lost soul.
Yeah.
You perceive yourself as these objects. You think you are the sum of your learned experiences.
Right. You identify with the content.
He uses that vivid example from the hypothetical movie. Imagine choosing to be James Bond. Since all of your thoughts are now James Bond's thoughts, your entire existing self-concept is gone. You genuinely become Bond in the context of the movie.
You're totally immersed.
Then when the movie's off, your old self-concept just returns. But, he says, that doesn't change the fact that it is all just something consciousness is experiencing.
The consciousness itself remains the same throughout. It just shifts its focus from one set of objects, Bond's thoughts and emotions, to another set, your old thoughts and emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It brilliantly illustrates that our self-concept, our personality, even our life story is just a collection of thoughts and experiences,
Yeah.
something consciousness experiences and observes.
Not consciousness itself, it's the content, not the container.
Yeah. So the profound takeaway here is,
The key takeaway is that consciousness is neither pure nor impure. It has no qualities. It's just there, aware that it's aware. It's the constant, neutral backdrop. The fundamental difference between a conscious being and one who's lost in the show is simply the focus of their awareness.
where you put your attention.
Right. And true meditation, he argues, isn't about forcing the mind to be blank, but rather asking when consciousness were to focus on itself, becoming the simple awareness of being aware.
Just noticing that you're noticing.
Exactly. This, he declares, is spirituality. It's the moment you woke up. It's the return to the root of your being, realizing you were always there, just like you were always sitting on the couch watching TV, even when you were completely absorbed in the show.
And this shift allows the world to stop being a problem.
And instead becomes something you are simply watching, allowing it to let you be who you are, the awareness, the true self, eternally unburdened and free.
Wow. That understanding of consciousness is a complete paradigm shift. And it opens the door to another profound concept Singer gets into, the role of inner energy, and how we often, maybe unwittingly, block its natural flow, creating emotional turbulence and stagnation in our lives.
Yes, inner energy. He turns our attention to this, noting how little consideration it really gets in the Western world, despite its undeniable presence.
Right. We talk about physical energy, but not this.
Exactly. Every thought we have, every emotion we feel, every physical move, all are an expenditure of energy. And this immediately begs the question, where does all this energy come from?
A good question.
He points out that we often expend a tremendous, often unrecognized amount of energy on internal activities alone, like fighting interfering thoughts, holding countless ideas in mind, pushing unwanted emotions aside, or trying to discipline inner drives.
That sounds exhausting just listing it.
It is. This continuous internal expenditure, often way below our conscious radar, truly highlights a profound blind spot in our understanding of ourselves. It's a constant, silent drain.
So he contrasts this mysterious inner energy with the energy we get from, say, food or sleep.
Right. He emphasizes that there's an unlimited source of a phenomenal amount of energy inside of you. It's always available to you. At any moment, you can draw upon it.
Unlimited, where does that come from?
He refers to it using various traditional names, qi in Chinese medicine, shakti in Hinduism, or simply spirit. This energy, he says, flows strongly when we're in love or excited and inspired by something. We literally feel like a bundle of light full of vitality and exuberance.
You feel that buzz.
Exactly. He suggests this inner energy is distinct from physical energy, hinting at a spiritual wellspring that's constantly present and available, regardless of our physical state or external circumstances. It's our birthright, really, an unlimited resource fueling our highest states, creativity, connection, joy.
He paints such a vivid picture to illustrate this, using the example of a breakup. It's so relatable.
Oh, yeah, the breakup example is classic.
You get so totally depressed that you start staying home alone soon. Everything ends up sprawled all over the floor. You can hardly get out of bed, so you just sleep all the time. We've all felt some version of that, right? That profound energy drain.
Absolutely. Then the phone rings, it's your girlfriend. Leaving you was the worst mistake I ever made.
And in that instant, just from that external event, that phone call, and the shift in your inner state, suddenly you're filled with energy the moment you hang up the phone.
Boom. Total transformation.
This dramatic, immediate shift from utter depletion to boundless vitality is such a stark, undeniable demonstration of the immense power of this inner energy.
It highlights its non-physical origin and its direct link to our emotional and mental openness. It's almost magical how quickly it can flood back in.
So this naturally leads us to wonder, why is the energy there sometimes, and at other times you feel completely drained?
And the core answer, according to Singer, is remarkably simple. You block it.
We block it ourselves.
That's his point. He explains, you block it by closing your heart, by closing your mind, and by pulling yourself into a restrictive space inside. This closing creates a sense of darkness and can manifest as tremendous disturbance or overwhelming lethargy.
Which sounds a lot like depression or burnout.
Exactly. What we often recognize as depression or profound emotional stagnation. He explains that while various energy centers or chakras exist, the heart is the one we intuitively know most about opening and closing. We say our heart aches or is broken.
Right, we feel it there.
When we close our heart, that vital energy just can't flow in, leading to that dark, lethargic state. The truly empowering realization here is that the choice to open or close, to allow the energy to flow or to restrict it, is ultimately under our direct conscious control.
That gives us immense personal agency over our inner state.
Huge agency.
So our inner energy flow is directly linked to our openness, our willingness to allow life to move through us. But what about those old emotional wounds, the ones that seem to pop up out of nowhere, maybe years after the original event?
Yes, the baggage.
Singer suggests our past experiences profoundly impact this energy flow, particularly through what he calls the spiritual heart.
He refers to the heart not just as a physical organ, but as one of the masterpieces of creation, a phenomenal instrument, and a crucial energy center, a chakra.
Okay.
This spiritual heart, he explains, controls the energy flow by opening and closing, directly influencing our feelings of love, inspiration, confidence, and just overall well-being. He likens it to a valve.
Open or closed.
Right. Either allowing vital energy to pass through unhindered or restricting it. And this subtly but profoundly dictates the course of our lives, often without us even consciously realizing it.
So how do past experiences get stuck in there?
This is where Singer introduces the pivotal concept of samskaras. He describes them as an unfinished energy pattern that ends up running your life.
Unfinished energy patterns.
Okay. These are energetic impressions from past experiences that got stuck within us because we resisted them at the time. We didn't allow them to fully process and pass through.
We shut down instead of feeling them.
Exactly. And they don't just disappear or fade away. They are pushed out of the forefront of the mind and held until you're prepared to release them. Think of samskaras not just as memories, but as deeply embedded energetic programs in our subconscious.
Like little landmines waiting to be triggered.
Kind of, yeah. When a new experience, thought, or sensation triggers one of these old patterns, it's not just a memory resurfacing, it's the entire energetic charge of that past, unresolved event reactivating in the present moment.
Hijacking our emotional and mental state now.
Precisely. This is why a seemingly minor inconvenience can sometimes provoke an outsized, intensely disproportionate reaction. It's the samskara at work, seeking release, and messing with our current energy flow.
He uses such a powerful and relatable example of this with the light blue Ford Mustang.
Ah, yes, the Mustang example. It's very vivid.
You're driving down the street, everything's fine, then inevitably something comes in that doesn't make it through.
Yeah.
If that particular car looks like your ex-girlfriend's car, and maybe there's someone hugging inside, boom.
Right. Suddenly, your heart and mind are fixated on that one car, even though it's gone. The moment passes externally, but the energetic charge remains inside.
Then, 5 years later, you're driving,
Yeah.
you see a similar car, maybe even just the same color, and suddenly your heart actually skips a beat. Then it starts beating faster. You start getting moody, irritated, and agitated.
And you might not even consciously connect it back to the ex-girlfriend anymore.
Exactly. This vividly shows how the stored energy patterns are real and interact with the flow of current thoughts and events. It's a clear, undeniable demonstration of how deeply these past unresolved experiences, these samskaras, can affect our present emotional and mental state, often without us even knowing why.
This phenomena illuminates a profound truth about our inner programming. We are programmed based upon our past impressions, such that all kinds of things can cause us to open and close.
We react based on the past, not the present.
Often, yes. These unreleased samskaras, when they build up sufficiently, can lead to deep-seated depression, making everything appear negative and draining our vitality. The immense reward, then, for actively releasing them, for allowing them to pass through.
What's the reward?
A permanently open heart, a state where you live in love and it feeds you and strengthens you continuously.
That sounds pretty good.
It does, doesn't it? Singer emphasizes it's about being willing to let pain come up into your heart and pass through, understanding that it only hurts for a minute and then it's over.
Whereas resisting it makes it stick around forever.
Precisely. Resisting pain only stores it, making us carry it indefinitely. The spiritual path, then, involves actively allowing these stored energies to be released, purifying the heart, fostering a state of unending openness and profound love, moving us towards true inner freedom.
This act of allowing, of consciously choosing not to close our hearts when things get uncomfortable, that seems absolutely central to Singer's whole philosophy.
It really is. It's about transcending our deeply ingrained tendency to protect a false self.
He makes a pretty bold assertion. If you protect yourself, you will never be free.
It's blunt, isn't it? He explains that we unconsciously build this shell around the part of you that is weak. This shell is our ego, your self-concept.
And the self-protection, it's usually triggered by emotional stuff, right? Fear, insecurity, not actual physical danger.
Mostly, yes. Psychological or emotional disturbances like fear, insecurity, self-consciousness. He defines this constant self-protection, this erecting of a mental shell, as the fundamental barrier to true spiritual growth and lasting happiness.
Because this constant vigilance, this need to hide our perceived weaknesses, it traps us.
Exactly. It traps us within a self-made prison, cutting us off from spontaneous joy, enthusiasm, and genuine connection with life and others.
And it's interesting how he highlights that society often kind of normalizes these psychological sensitivities.
Yeah, that's a key point. In our modern world, where basic needs are largely met for many, we have the luxury of worrying about a spot on our pants, or laughing too loud, or saying something wrong.
We sweat the small stuff because we can.
Right. And this constant, subtle protection of our fragile ego hides the problems. It doesn't fix them. You're locking your illness inside yourself, and it will only get worse.
Ouch. Locking the illness inside.
This hypersensitive psyche, as he calls it, demands constant energy to protect, a process that ultimately prevents any true healing or growth. He emphasizes that if your physical body were this sensitive, reacting intensely to a slight breeze or a speck of dust, we'd consider it quite sick.
Yeah, you go to the doctor.
Yet we accept this psychological state as perfectly normal. The profound insight here is that the solution isn't to control the outside world or to avoid triggers.
But to dismantle the inner mechanisms of self-protection.
Exactly, to stop building those walls around our perceived vulnerabilities.
He painted such a vivid picture of a life lived defensively, a life that, honestly, many of us can probably recognize in ourselves or others.
Sadly, yes.
Most people just go from day to day protecting themselves and making sure nothing goes too wrong. At the end of the day, when someone asks, "How was your day?" a normal response is, "Not too bad," or "I'll survive."
Which subtly suggests they see life as a threat, doesn't it? A series of potential pitfalls to be navigated cautiously.
Yeah. And he humorously compares our internal psychological thorns, those painful unresolved samskaras, to someone building an elaborate protective device for a physical thorn stuck in their arm.
Right, like a whole contraption to avoid bumping it.
Which ultimately completely runs your entire life. This analogy powerfully illustrates how our constant, often unconscious, attempts to avoid inner pain can ironically become the central focus of our entire existence.
Dictating our choices and severely limiting our freedom far more than the initial disturbance itself ever could. We become prisoners of our own defense mechanisms.
So the root of our fear, Singer explains, lies in these blockages in the flow of your energy. Is that right?
That's the core idea. When our heart is weakened and constricted due to these unreleased blocks, it becomes highly susceptible to destructive emotions like fear, jealousy, and possessiveness.
And the solution he offers is pretty direct.
Very direct. To remove the blockages by letting go right then, because it will be harder later. It's about a radical acceptance. Relaxing behind it, don't fight with it, don't try to change it, and don't judge it.
Just let it be there and pass through.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing feelings or stopping them from arising, but about disengaging from their pull, refusing to feed them with our attention or resistance. By remaining in the seat of the witness and allowing these energetic disturbances to pass through without clinging or reacting, you prevent them from becoming entrenched and dictating your life.
It's a continuous surrender to the purification process.
A moment-to-moment choice that leads to true, unshakable liberation.
Okay. This willingness to let go, to release the grip of our self-protective mechanisms, that feels like the key to unlocking profound inner freedom, which, for Singer, means going fundamentally beyond the confines of our self-made inner world.
Yes, beyond is a huge concept for him. He uses this striking analogy, suggesting our very sense of self is like a house we've been personally designing and building in an open field where the sun was always shining.
A house built of thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. This house, meticulously constructed from our thoughts and emotions, has walls of thoughts thick enough and closed enough to where nothing but darkness is inside that structure.
Wow. That analogy immediately highlights the self-imposed nature of our limitations. We build these walls, supposedly for safety or control.
But they ultimately trap us within a self-created darkness, blocking out the natural, abundant light of universal consciousness that always shines outside.
And what's fascinating is how he describes our attachment to this self-made prison.
Isn't it? We initially build it for perceived safety, to feel secure, but then we become so comfortable, so accustomed to its familiar, predictable, and within the realm of your control confines.
That you stop thinking about the outside altogether.
Right. We meticulously decorate these walls with the memories of our past experiences and with our dreams of the future, projecting our identity onto them. This intricate mental structure completely blocks you from whatever natural light is on the outside.
The comfort of this internal world, even though it's self-made and limiting, becomes so appealing, so normal.
That we lose all awareness of the radiant, expansive reality beyond it. This internal world of concepts, views, beliefs, memories becomes our entire perceived reality, our whole universe.
And he takes this analogy even further, creating an incredibly powerful image. He describes the lights burning out in this self-made house.
Leaving us in absolute darkness, yeah. Clinging to precious, flickering candles of our own making.
Then we frantically discover emergency flashlights, our own self-created light, our willpower, coping mechanisms.
And eventually we find this strange comfort, even a twisted kind of love, within the darkness of our self-made world. But then an ancient, mystical book speaks of a natural, radiant light that exists outside. A self-luminous, omnipresent light that shines everywhere all at once.
But our whole world was about keeping together the life you had managed to build for yourself within the confines of the house. We're just preoccupied with preserving this illusion.
Exactly. This vividly portrays how we become so invested in our limited, artificial inner world, our ego-driven self-concept, that the very idea of an expansive, effortless, natural, eternally present light becomes confusing, even threatening. Utterly alien.
So this leads us to ask, how do we actually leave this house, this self-built prison?
Singer states unequivocally, time and again, every day, the natural flow of life collides with our walls and tries to tear them down.
Life is constantly trying to free us.
That's the idea, but time and again we defend them. We cling to our comfortable darkness. Enlightenment, he suggests, isn't about gaining something external, not acquiring new knowledge or powers.
But about recognizing and courageously letting go of the walls of your own making that are blocking the light.
Precisely. It's the effortless release of consciousness, expanding into the brilliance of what is and always was. This means stopping the active, unconscious process of defending our self-made structures, allowing life's natural forces, those very experiences that challenge us, to dismantle them.
When the walls finally crumble, when we stop resisting,
our awareness effortlessly expands into the infinite self-luminous light that was always present, always shining.
So if our internal walls, these structures of thought and emotion, create our perceived limitations, then true freedom, true liberation, is fundamentally about going beyond these self-imposed boundaries.
Yes. For Singer, the very word beyond is the essence of spirituality, literally going past where you are.
It means not staying in your current state.
And consciously transcending limitations and boundaries, which, he astutely observes, only exist at the places where you stop going beyond.
Interesting. So limits only appear where we stop pushing.
That's his perspective. True freedom means a commitment to continuous expansion, recognizing that any perceived limit or discomfort is simply a point where we've unconsciously stopped pushing further, held back. The universe, he argues, is infinite, boundless. Our limitations are entirely artificial constructs of mind, of perception.
He connects this directly to our inherent human desire for control, right?
Absolutely. Explaining how your analytical mind, in its attempt to make sense of the vast unknown, breaks the infinite universe down to the finite where you can feel a sense of control.
We try to put it in a box.
Exactly. Our myriad views, opinions, preferences, concepts, goals, and beliefs are all attempts to make the unknown known, to fit the boundless into a manageable box. But this mental model, this carefully constructed reality, is tenuous at best.
And it can crumble at any moment when life throws a curveball.
Right, causing immense discomfort and disorientation. This mental construction, while offering a false sense of security, is ultimately fragile. When life doesn't conform to our model, the resulting discomfort, the sense of things falling apart, isn't a problem. It's an opportunity, a profound opportunity to see the impermanence of our self-made boundaries and to choose expansion instead of contraction.
He uses such a compelling metaphor here, comparing our situation to a tiger in a small cage at the zoo.
The confines of your comfort zone create just such a cage for our consciousness, for our very being.
And he refines this, comparing it to an electronic fence for a dog.
Yeah, that's a good one too. When the dog approached that limit, it gave him a little shock. It hurt. It was uncomfortable enough so that now the dog feels fear whenever he approaches the boundaries.
So our bars are the outer boundary of your comfort zone. That is, the moment we feel insecurity, jealousy, fear, or self-consciousness.
Exactly. These inner disturbances aren't actual physical barriers. They're simply psychological discomforts, internal shocks, signaling we're approaching the limits of our self-imposed cage, our comfort zone,
And we recoil thinking we've hit a real wall.
when, in fact, it's just an internal alarm.
So the profound insight here is that spirituality is the commitment to go beyond no matter what it takes.
It's an infinite journey where you're always at your limits because you're always growing, always expanding. The absolute key, he reassures us, is that it cannot actually hurt you to go beyond your psychological limits.
It might feel uncomfortable, maybe intensely so, but it's not fundamentally damaging.
Right. We must consciously choose to relax and go past that point, to lean into that discomfort. He envisions a comfort zone so expanded that it can easily fit the entire day no matter what happens, where you're unperturbed by life's ups and downs.
So accepting discomfort as a sign of growth.
Leaning into the edges of our perceived limitations and realizing that psychological pain is temporary. When faced directly and allowed to pass, it always leads to an expanded sense of self and increasing freedom. It's about continuously pushing those boundaries outward.
This constant expansion, this radical willingness to move beyond our comfort zones, relies entirely on our ability to stop clinging to our self-built structures, which Singer calls a fundamental, almost primal act.
Yeah. Clinging is one of the most primal acts, he says. We instinctively cling to inner objects, thoughts, experiences, the ebb and flow of your emotions, to desperately create fixed points to create a sense of orientation, relationship, and security in the midst of constant interchange.
Trying to find an anchor in a shifting sea.
Precisely. This deep-seated human need for stability drives us to hold on to fleeting mental and emotional impressions, transforming them into a seemingly solid, static inner structure. It's an instinctive attempt to find firm footing in the fluid, unpredictable sea of consciousness.
And he delves deeply into the birth of the psyche through this very act of clinging.
Right. He explains that in the midst of the expansive empty mind, by clinging to passing thought objects, you make an island of apparent solidity. This is the foundational process by which we build a personality, a persona, a self-concept that would allow you to define yourself.
Our entire life is based on the model you built around yourself.
Yes, a mental framework dictating our reactions, desires, fears, even creating different facades for different situations and people. This process creates a false self, an elaborate mental construct we identify with completely and then defend with all our might.
It's like a survival mechanism for our awareness, giving us this powerful but illusory sense of definition and control.
Exactly.
And he, humorously yet pointedly, calls out the external influences on our clinging. Society has a lot to say about this.
Oh, definitely. We're subtly, or not so subtly, rewarded for conformity and punished for deviance. This societal conditioning from childhood trains us to alter their collection of beliefs, thoughts, and emotions to meet external expectations.
You are literally taking all your memories, pulling them together in an orderly fashion and saying that's who you are.
But, he reminds us, you are not the events. You're the one who experienced the events. You are the awareness, not the content.
This highlights how external conditioning reinforces our tendency to cling to a fixed self-concept. We become adept at creating different facades,
Further entrenching the illusion of a fixed, separate, fragile self that constantly needs defending.
So the truly liberating question becomes, what it means to live spiritually is to not participate in this struggle of clinging and defending.
Yes. It means allowing events to come and go without leaving impressions inside of you, without clinging, judging, or letting them define you. Singer provocatively states we should use disturbances, those moments challenging our internal model, as dynamite to break it up and free you.
Use the challenges to break free.
Exactly. The way out of this self-made prison is through unwavering awareness. Stop defining the disturbed mind as a negative experience. Just see if you can relax behind it.
So when our internal body gets challenged, instead of fighting to reestablish order,
We can choose to allow the disturbance to act as a liberating force, actively breaking down the walls. It's about being okay with the discomfort, trusting that on the other side of this dismantling, this letting go, is profound and lasting freedom.
okay, when we truly stop clinging and allow our inner structures, our self-concepts to dissolve, we open ourselves to an entirely new way of living life, one characterized by radical, unconditional happiness and unwavering non-resistance.
Yes, this is where it gets really practical and powerful.
Singer proposes a surprisingly simple, yet profoundly challenging choice. Do you want to be happy, or do you not want to be happy?
Seems simple enough.
But he stresses it must be unconditional, meaning regardless of what happens in your external life. This is a radical departure from how most people approach happiness, right? Which is almost always conditional.
Completely conditional, I'll be happy when.
Exactly. He challenges us to realize the choice for happiness is always within our control, always available if we're simply willing to make it absolute. No conditions, no exceptions.
Indeed. To elaborate, Singer states that unconditional happiness is the highest technique there is. He calls it a spiritual path that will teach you every single thing there is to learn about yourself, about others, and about the nature of life.
How does it teach you everything?
Because if you truly commit to it, it forces you to confront every single inner blockage, every samskara, every resistance that prevents happiness. He challenges the deeply ingrained idea that happiness is outside our control, arguing that any condition you create will limit your happiness.
If you need X, Y, and Z to be happy, you'll be unhappy when they're not there.
Precisely. You will inevitably, by definition, be unhappy when those conditions aren't met, or when life inevitably changes them. This path, therefore, fundamentally requires a transcendence of the personal self, a radical letting go of the part of us that insists on external conditions for inner joy. It's an internal revolution.
He uses incredibly relatable examples of why we so often break our vow of happiness, even if we've made one. I didn't think I'd miss my flight.
I didn't think Sally would show up at the party wearing the same dress. Mundane stuff.
Totally mundane. Yet he asks, are you really willing to break your vow of happiness because these events took place? He takes it even further with a provocative thought. If they starve you and put you in solitary confinement, just have fun being like Gandhi.
Wow, that's intense.
It's a truly provocative challenge, pushing us to examine the depth of our commitment to inner well-being, to our chosen state, regardless of circumstances. It fundamentally underscores that external events are just events, neutral in themselves.
It's our internal reaction, our choice to break our vow that ultimately determines our state of happiness, our inner experience.
This brings us to a profound insight. You gain nothing by being bothered by life's events. It doesn't change the world, you just suffer.
The suffering, he emphasizes, is a self-inflicted wound. The key, he explains, is to just don't close your heart. There's no rule that says you have to close your inner space, your experience of love and joy, in the face of discomfort or adversity.
He provocatively asks, why? Dare to ask yourself that question. Why do we choose to close, to suffer?
It's a deep question. This radical path of unconditional happiness leads to a happiness that is beyond human understanding, a state of bliss that doesn't depend on circumstances. By consciously choosing not to close our hearts, we maintain an open channel to the inner wellspring of energy and joy.
It's a continuous moment-to-moment practice.
That, over time, purifies the heart and mind, leading to a state of profound and unshakable bliss that is our natural state.
Embracing unconditional happiness naturally, almost inevitably, leads to a state of non-resistance, where we accept the flow of life without inner struggle.
They go hand in hand, really.
Singer powerfully emphasizes that stress only happens when you resist life's events. The ultimate goal he presents is to live life without stress, problems, fear, or melodrama, by being simply present, witnessing and experiencing everything as it unfolds.
He argues that our innate will, that powerful force moving our body, asserting desires, holding thoughts, is too often asserted in opposition to the flow of life.
We fight against what is.
Exactly. This resistance, he explains, isn't against the external event itself, but against the experience of the event passing through us. We want to control the inner experience, not just the outer world.
That's a critical distinction. He elaborates that our will is often asserted in opposition to the flow of life. We resist the experience of the event passing through us, precisely because it will not fit with what's already in there.
Meaning our preconceived notions, our comfort zone, or samskaras.
Right. This internal struggle, this battle against reality as it is what creates tension and can wear yourself out struggling with the experience of a single event.
Our ideas of how things should be clash violently with how they are, causing us to expend immense energy fighting reality. This resistance prevents us dealing with situations from clarity and presence.
Instead, we react from old blocked energies. our conditioned patterns.
Compounding the problem rather than resolving it.
He provides a truly insightful example, illustrating how our past can color our present. He talks about azaleas blooming,
Ah, the azalea.
which for some can cause unexpected stress because you once had a girlfriend who grew azaleas and she broke up with you when they were in bloom. The flowers themselves are harmless, beautiful even.
But the resistance to that stored energetic pattern creates the problem. He suggests that similarly, if somebody cuts you off in traffic instead of reacting with anger,
You simply let go and stay open. The true spiritual path, he says, is to deal with each situation with acceptance.
if you simply allow events and their accompanying energies to pass through you, you will not actually be dealing with the current event. You will be dealing with your own blocked energies from the past.
Wow. So our inner unresolved stuff projects onto external events, creating problems where none inherently exist. By accepting, we're directly addressing the root cause within.
Exactly, which leads to an incredibly bold and liberating statement from Singer. It is actually possible to never have another problem for the rest of your life.
Never have another problem. How?
This is because events are not problems, they're just events. Your resistance to them is what causes the problem.
That's a radical reframe.
It really is. By consistently practicing relaxing through your personal resistance, allowing energies to flow, thoughts to pass, emotions to be felt without contraction, you gain an enormous amount of energy previously tied up in struggle,
You also find much more love flowing through you.
eventually leading to a profound state where nothing will ever disturb you again. This path of non-resistance is a powerful, active means of spiritual growth, directly addressing how we create our own suffering. It's about opening our hearts and minds to encompass reality, regardless of its form.
And stepping into a state of unwavering inner peace and freedom. This profound acceptance, this non-resistance to life as it is, finds its ultimate mirror in the most fundamental and inescapable reality of all, death.
Ah, yes. He doesn't shy away from this topic.
No, and here's where Singer really takes things to another level. He calls death one of the best teachers in all of life. It profoundly shows you that you are not your body, not your possessions or achievements, as it takes them all away in a second, what you desperately cling to.
Yeah.
And it instantly makes us all the same, stripping away all superficial distinctions.
Death is the ultimate equalizer, the great revealer, stripping away illusions we build, revealing the stark reality of impermanence. It's relentless, impartial.
Doesn't care about status, wealth, opinions, self-concepts. It simply is.
And he powerfully encourages us not to wait until our last moment to learn these vital lessons. He says, a wise person realizes that at any moment they may breathe out, and the breath may not come back in.
That's sobering.
It is. This constant, profound awareness of our own mortality, not as morbid obsession, but as fundamental truth, should serve as powerful motivation. It should inspire us to live at the highest level while I'm alive.
To stop bothering the people I love with petty stuff.
And to live from the deepest part of my being, from our authentic self. This isn't morbid. It's a potent catalyst for truly living more fully, more consciously. By embracing the inevitability and unpredictability of death, we're spurred to prioritize what truly matters.
Shed grievances and distractions, and engage with life from authenticity, presence, profound love.
Right.
He offers a potent thought experiment to drive this home. What if you knew that this evening would be the last time you'd get to see them? Referring to your loved ones.
Or imagine if you knew you were going to die within a week or a month. How would that change things?
And then he challenges us directly. If that's really what you would do with your last week, what are you doing with the rest of your time? Wasting it, throwing it away.
It's a powerful indictment of our complacency, our tendency to get lost in trivialities.
He concludes with a truly profound statement. Death is your friend. Death is your liberator. It is scarcity that makes things precious.
This thought experiment cuts through everyday complacency, revealing how much of our precious lives we spend distracted, worried, in conflict, or simply numb, instead of fully appreciating the moments we have. Death becomes a constant, liberating reminder to live.
And this leads to another crucial insight. If you are living every experience fully, then death doesn't take anything from you.
How does that work?
There's nothing to take because you're already fulfilled. When you've truly immersed yourself in each moment, embracing it fully, there are no regrets, no unfulfilled desires, no last wishes, because you're already living them.
So the wise being is always ready to die.
Living as though you were on the verge of death because you are. This radical perspective paradoxically makes life precious and helps us get your life back by making you pay attention to the moment.
Death becomes not an end to fear, but a constant, profound reminder to value and immerse ourselves completely in life, turning every ordinary moment into something extraordinary, a conscious act of living.
Living with this acute awareness of impermanence and embracing non-resistance allows us to find a dynamic balance in all things. This leads to what Singer, drawing deeply from ancient wisdom, calls the secret of the middle way.
Ah, the Tao. Citing the ancient Chinese text, the Tao Te Ching, Singer explores the Tao, or the Way. This is a profound principle of balance between all extremes.
The yin, the yang, the feminine and the masculine, the dark and the light. The Tao is inherently in the middle, the point of dynamic equilibrium.
He explains that while the Tao is subtle, often hard to grasp conceptually, its essence is revealed through simple observations of life's inherent balance, demonstrating that extremes are inherently unsustainable in nature or our inner lives.
He brilliantly illustrates how extremes are fundamentally unsustainable. How long can a pendulum stay at one of its outermost positions?
It can only remain there for a moment. Any extreme, too much food, not enough, obsessive closeness, complete isolation, will end up the same, leading to imbalance and eventual suffering.
When we consistently move towards and cling to extremes, we waste tremendous energy getting stuck in a rut, oscillating between them.
The further off-center we are, the more energy we expend futilely trying to maintain imbalance instead of using that energy for productive, flowing movement. The Tao, in contrast, is the quiet, effortless center where forces balance. A dynamic equilibrium, inherently effortless because it aligns with the natural flow. It's about harmony, not struggle.
He gives that very relatable example of a chain smoker.
Right. A meaningful percentage of his life is involved in smoking, getting them, smoking them, thinking about them, the health issues.
But then, if he decides to quit, that also consumes tremendous energy, with the pendulum swinging to the opposite extreme of obsessive abstinence and withdrawal.
Both extremes, he points out, are a tremendous waste of time, energy, and effort. The Tao, in stark contrast, is the place in which these forces balance quietly, the point of effortless flow.
He uses the elegant analogy of sailing. To sail properly, you must hold it just right, the sweet spot.
This dynamic equilibrium is about effortless action, moving with the flow, not against it. Just as a skilled sailor constantly adjusts to wind and waves to find that sweet spot, living in the Tao means continuously feeling for and returning to the center of balance in every aspect of life,
rather than rigidly adhering to extremes that lead to friction and exhaustion.
And so the profound implication is that when you move in the Tao, you are always present. Life becomes absolutely simple.
Simple how?
Our conditioned reactions to past imbalances, our judgments, our clinging, that's what confuses us and complicates life. The goal is to consciously feel for the center in every situation and then let the forces move you, allowing life to unfold through you rather than trying to control it.
This allows us to be an instrument in the hands of the forces, participating in the harmony of balance.
Which brings no burden, there's no stress, because you're no longer fighting the natural current of existence. When you stop swinging wildly between extremes, a phenomenal amount of mental and emotional energy spontaneously becomes available.
Life stops being a draining struggle
And transforms into an effortless dance as you learn to flow with the universe rather than fruitlessly pushing against its powerful current.
This path of balance and non-judgment ultimately leads us to a deeper, more expansive understanding of universal love, described beautifully by Singer as the loving eyes of God.
Yes, this is a beautiful culmination. He explores the nature of God not as some external entity to be feared, but suggesting we have a direct connection to the divine within our very being.
As we progressively release the personal self, our ego, clinging, self-made house of thoughts, we naturally drift back into spirit,
Experiencing increasingly higher vibrations of love and lightness. He describes this transformation not as an intellectual concept, but as a direct, undeniable experiential reality, where anxieties and tensions are replaced by a constant, profound backdrop of love, openness, spontaneous appreciation. This is the natural feeling of spirit, our deepest essence.
He explains how those who have gone beyond, truly transcended the personal self, describe this state. No sense of I anymore.
Only the ultimate expansiveness of their sense of self merging into the love and light, like a single drop of water merging into the ocean. This universal consciousness, this profound interconnectedness, is a common thread across countless spiritual traditions worldwide.
From Christ saying, I and my Father are one,
To the Hindu concept of Atman merging into Paramatman. This merging isn't just philosophy. For those who experience it, it's undeniable reality. individual consciousness, realizing its intrinsic unity with the universal absolute. It's the ultimate understanding of God through direct immersion, not dogma.
And what's so powerful is how he challenges our traditional, often fear-based notions of judgment. He provocatively asks, what if God's not judging? What if God is loving?
That's a game changer for many people.
He encourages us to imagine looking at every person you saw live like a beautiful flower with its own color, its own expression, just as we might appreciate a diverse garden without judging every leaf.
What if you felt that way about people? He points to the unconditional love of a mother as a potent earthly glimpse of this divine perspective, saying, those are the eyes of God looking down through you, seeing only beauty, inherent perfection, infinite potential.
This perspective shift completely dismantles the fear-based idea of a judgmental God,
replacing it with an experience of boundless, all-encompassing love that sees only beauty, divine expression in all of creation, in every being.
This contemplation leads to an astonishing realization. You can't offend the Divine One. Its very nature is light, love, compassion, protection, and giving.
Like the sun, just like the sun keeps shining, regardless of whether we look at it or acknowledge it, creation continues to sustain you, even if you don't believe.
The profound beauty is that you can experience this ecstasy, this deep, abiding joy, because God's nature is eternal, conscious bliss.
He urges us to contemplate this deeply and truly let go of the idea of a judgmental God. The ultimate truth, Singer implies, is that your God is an ecstasy and there's nothing you can do about it.
Huh. That's quite a statement.
Isn't it? This realization liberates us from cycles of guilt, fear, self-condemnation, opening us completely to the constant, unconditional love and bliss that is the very nature of the divine, allowing us to merge into a state of ecstatic, conscious being that is always present.
So in this deep dive, we've journeyed through Michael Singer's transformative work, The Untethered Soul. We've explored the radical power of witnessing your inner voice, understanding and opening to the flow of spiritual energy,
Breaking free from self-made limitations.
and ultimately living a life of unconditional happiness and profound non-resistance. We've seen how Singer systematically, yet compassionately, dismantles our illusions of self and control, gently guiding us back to the profound, unchanging core of pure consciousness and boundless freedom within each of us.
And what's so profoundly fascinating and accessible about Singer's approach is that he isn't offering complex rituals, esoteric practices, or rigid dogmas.
No complex formulas.
Not at all. Instead, he presents a direct experiential path to liberation that you can begin to walk right now in your everyday life. This invites us to consider, how will you begin to practice letting go in your daily life, in those moments of discomfort or irritation?
Will you commit to unconditional happiness, regardless of external circumstances, daring to ask yourself why if you find yourself closing off?
The brilliance lies in its simplicity and accessibility. It's a direct invitation to our own inner freedom.
Singer tells us with such profound clarity, you realize that you're not who you thought you were. You're not even a human being. You just happen to be watching one.
Wow. That's a mind bender.
It really is. If that's truly who you are, pure, unconditioned consciousness, then what will you choose to experience with that boundless awareness from this moment forward?
A powerful question to leave us with.
That's our deep dive for today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep unwrapping those fascinating nuggets of knowledge.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.